Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We're so glad you're here. Now, let's begin. It was supposed to be Officer Daniel Harris's last quiet week on the force. After 32 years of service, he'd earned it. Just 7 more days until retirement. 7 days until he could finally spend mornings with his new granddaughter, tend to his garden, and leave the weight of the badge behind. But that Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. The call came in at 4:47 p.m. The dispatcher's voice was tight, controlled, but Daniel heard what she was trying to hide. Fear. "We have a child on the line. She's alone, says she needs help. She's crying." Daniel's hand tightened around the radio. "Put her through." There was a crackle, then a small voice, trembling, barely a whisper. Please help me." Daniel's heart clenched. The voice was so young, 5, maybe 6 years old. "Sweetheart, my name is Daniel. I'm a police officer and I'm going to help you, okay? Can you tell me your name?" A sniffle, a shaky breath. "Emily." "That's a beautiful name, Emily. You're very brave for calling. Can you tell me where you are?" I don't know. Outside, it's cold." Daniel was already moving, grabbing his jacket, signaling his partner. "What do you see around you, honey?" "Big buildings, gray ones, and a van. An old van." The dispatcher was already tracing the call. Daniel kept his voice calm, steady, even as adrenaline surged through him. "That's good, Emily. You're doing so good. Can you tell me what happened? Why are you outside alone?" There was a long pause, then in a voice so small it nearly broke him. He put something big inside me, and it hurts. It hurts so much." Daniel's blood ran cold. His vision tunneled. In 32 years, he'd heard a lot, but this was different. "Emily, sweetie, where is he now? Where's the person who hurt you?" "I don't know. He left. Mommy's not here either. Nobody's here." The address came through. Riverside District, East End, one of the forgotten neighborhoods where broken streetlights never got fixed and sirens were just background noise. "Emily, I'm coming to get you right now, okay? I'm in my car. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Can you stay on the phone with me?" "I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart. I know. But you're not alone. Anymore. I'm almost there." He drove faster than he should have, heart hammering, mind racing through protocols, through worst-case scenarios. His partner was calling for backup, for an ambulance, for child services. But all Daniel could hear was that little voice. "He put something big inside me." 4 minutes, 3, 2. He turned onto Riverside, crumbling buildings, empty lots. And there, in the middle of the cracked pavement, sat a tiny figure, a little girl, alone. Daniel stopped the car and stepped out slowly, not wanting to scare her. She was sitting on the curb, knees pulled to her chest, dirty blonde hair falling over her face. Her clothes were old, too big. Her leg was bleeding from a fresh scrape. And her stomach. It looked swollen. Wrong. "Emily?" She looked up, big brown eyes filled with tears. "You came," she whispered. Daniel knelt down in front of her, his throat tight. "Of course I came, sweetheart. I'm here now. You're safe." But even as he said it, even as he gently reached out to her, a sick feeling twisted in his gut. Behind her, parked crooked against the curb, was an old white van, rusted, windows dark, and the back door was slightly open. Daniel's hand moved to his radio. His eyes never left the van. "Emily," he said softly, "who does that van belong to?" She looked back at it and her whole body trembled. Him. Daniel's training kicked in immediately. He positioned himself between Emily and the van, one hand on his radio, the other gently resting on her small shoulder. "Stay right here with me, sweetheart," he said softly. His partner, Officer Rebecca Chen, arrived within seconds, along with the ambulance. Rebecca approached the van cautiously, while Daniel stayed with Emily, watching the child's face for any sign of immediate danger. But Emily didn't look at the van anymore. She just stared down at her hands, trembling. The paramedics arrived with a stretcher, but Daniel held up a hand. "Let me talk to her first." He crouched down again, eye level with the little girl. Now that he was closer, he could see more, things that his stomach turn. Her skin was pale. Too pale. The kind of pale that came from being inside too long, or from something worse. Dark circles hung under her eyes like bruises. Her clothes hung loose on her frame, except around her middle, where her stomach protruded unnaturally. It wasn't the round belly of a well-fed child. It was distended, swollen. Wrong. "Emily, honey, these nice people are going to help you feel better, okay? They're going to take you to the hospital." She looked up at him with those huge brown eyes. "Will it stop hurting?" Daniel's throat tightened. "They're going to try their very best." "It's been hurting for a long time," she whispered. "I told Mommy, but she said it was just growing pains, that big girls get tummy aches sometimes." "When did it start hurting, sweetheart?" Emily thought for a moment, her small face scrunched in concentration. "I don't remember, long time. Maybe after my birthday? When was your birthday?" "I turned 5, but that was..." She counted on her fingers, got confused, started over. "I don't know. A long time." Daniel glanced at Rebecca, who had returned from checking the van. She shook her head slightly. Empty. No one. Inside. But there were things in there. Things that didn't belong. One of the paramedics, a kind-faced woman named Sarah, knelt beside them. "Hi there, Emily. My name's Sarah. Can I take a look at your leg? I see you got a pretty bad scrape there." Emily nodded silently. As Sarah gently examined the injury, she caught Daniel's eye. The look she gave him said everything. This child was in bad shape. The leg wound was recent, but there were older marks, signs of neglect, poor nutrition, and that swelling. "Emily," Daniel said gently, "can you tell me what happened to your leg?" "I fell." "Where? Did you fall, honey?" "By the stairs, inside. I was trying to get to the phone, but my legs felt funny. They feel funny a lot now, like they don't work right." Daniel felt something cold settle in his chest. Weakness, fatigue, unexplained swelling. A child who could barely stand. "Does anything else hurt besides your tummy and your leg?" Emily nodded slowly. "Everything hurts. I'm tired all the time. And I'm cold, even when it's not cold outside." Sarah was carefully cleaning the scrape, but Daniel could see the concern deepening in her expression. "Sweetheart, we need to take you to the hospital now, okay? They have warm blankets there, and they can help make the hurt go away." "Will Mommy be there?" The question hit Daniel like a punch. "Do you know where your mommy is?" "She's working. She's always working. She works and works and works, and then she sleeps. And then she works again." "And who stays with you when Mommy's working?" Emily's face changed. Not fear, exactly. Something more complicated. Confusion, maybe. "Sometimes the neighbor man. He brings food. Says Mommy asked him to watch me." "What's the neighbor man's name?" "I don't know. He just says to call him the, helper." Rebecca was already on her radio, calling it in. Possible suspect. Male. Unknown identity. Neighbors needed to be questioned immediately. Sarah had finished with the leg. "Emily, I'm going to lift you onto this bed now, okay? It might feel a little high, but I promise you won't fall." Sarah gently lifted the child. Emily winced. Her hand went to her stomach. "It hurts more when I move," she whispered. They secured her on the stretcher. Daniel walked alongside as they moved toward the ambulance. "Emily, I'm going to ride with you to the hospital, okay? I'm not going to leave you." For the first time, the tiniest hint of relief crossed her face, but then she said something that made everyone freeze. "Are you going to find him? The helper?" "Yes. He said I was getting bigger, that something was growing inside me. He said it was supposed to happen, that I was becoming a big girl." Daniel's jaw clenched. Did he do something to you, Emily?" She looked confused. He just looked at my tummy sometimes, said it was getting big. He seemed worried, but then he'd bring food and say it was okay. Nothing she said confirmed the worst, but nothing ruled it out either. As they loaded her into the ambulance, Daniel caught Rebecca's eye. "Find that van's owner," he said quietly. "Find him now." Rebecca nodded. "Already on it." Daniel climbed into the ambulance. Emily's small hand reached for his. "Officer Daniel." "Yes, sweetheart." "You promise you came because I called? Not because of him?" The question didn't make sense, but the fear in her eyes did. "I came because you called, Emily. You did exactly the right thing." She nodded and closed her eyes as the ambulance doors shut. As they pulled away, Daniel looked back at that empty street. At the old van, at the building where this child had been living, and he realized something chilling. Emily hadn't asked for her mother once since they'd put her in the ambulance. She'd asked about him, like she was more afraid of someone finding out she'd called than of being alone. The ambulance. Siren wailed through the streets, but Daniel barely heard it. His hand rested gently on Emily's small shoulder as she lay on the stretcher, eyes half closed, exhausted. Sarah was checking her vital signs, her expression growing more concerned with each reading. But Daniel's mind had drifted somewhere else. Somewhere he hadn't allowed himself to go in decades. He was 8 years old again, sitting in a doctor's office with his mother, trying to explain that something hurt. Something inside, something that didn't make sense to a child. "It just hurts, Mama, right here." He'd pointed to his side. His mother, working 2 jobs, exhausted, had sighed. "Growing pains, Danny. You're just shooting up like a weed." But it wasn't growing pains. For 6 months, he'd complained. 6 months of being told he was fine, that he was being dramatic, that boys his age always had aches and pains. Until one day, he collapsed at school. Emergency surgery. A ruptured appendix that had been inflamed for months. The doctor had been furious. Why didn't anyone bring him in sooner? His mother had cried for days. I thought he was just being a kid." Daniel had forgiven her long ago. She'd been doing her best alone, overwhelmed, trying to survive, but he'd never forgotten that feeling of knowing something was wrong and not being heard. "Officer Harris?" Sarah's voice pulled him back. "We're almost there." Daniel blinked, focusing on Emily's pale face. She was watching him. "You look sad," she whispered. He managed a small smile. "Just thinking, sweetheart." "About what?" "About how brave you are. Calling for help when you knew something was wrong. That took real courage. I was scared nobody would come. But I did come, and I'm not going anywhere." The ambulance pulled into the hospital emergency bay. The doors flew open, and suddenly there were nurses, doctors, a flurry of controlled chaos. Emily gripped Daniel's hand tighter. "You promised you'd stay. And I will. I'll be right outside while the doctors check on you, okay? But I'm not leaving this hospital." A doctor, young but competent-looking, leaned in. "Emily, I'm Dr. Patel. We're going to figure out what's making you hurt, all right?" As they wheeled her toward the examination room, Daniel forced himself to let go of her hand. He watched her disappear through the double doors, and something inside him shifted. This wasn't just another case. Not anymore. This was the child he'd been, the one who'd tried to speak up, the one who'd been ignored until it was almost too late. Rebecca appeared beside him. "We ran the van's plates." Daniel turned. "And?" "Registered to a Marcus. Webb, 63 years old. Lives in the same building. No violent history, but he's got a couple of minor offenses. Petty theft, mostly. Neighbors say he keeps to himself." "Where is he now?" "Nobody knows. Hasn't been seen since this morning. We've got units looking." Daniel's jaw tightened. "What about the mother?" "Still trying to locate her. The address on file is outdated. We're checking her employment records now." Daniel nodded slowly. but his mind was racing. A sick child, an absent mother, a mysterious man who brought food and watched her. And somewhere in all of this, a little girl who'd learned not to ask for help until she couldn't take it anymore. "Rebecca," he said quietly. "This one's personal." She looked at him, understanding in her eyes. She knew his story. Most of the veterans on the force did. "Then we do it right," she said. "For her." Daniel stared at those double doors. "Yeah," he whispered. "For her." 2 hours passed. Daniel sat in the waiting room watching the clock, watching the doors, waiting for answers. Rebecca had been working the phones nonstop. Finally, she walked over, her face grim. "I found the mother's current employer. She's working at a cleaning company downtown. Night shift supervisor gave me her number, but it goes straight to voicemail. Phone's probably dead." "What about an address?" "She's staying at the Riverside Motel. Room 23. I sent officers there, but she's not in. Supervisor says she works double shifts most. Days, sometimes triple." Daniel rubbed his face. "What about Emily's school records?" Rebecca pulled out her notepad. "That's where it gets worse. Lincoln Elementary has her enrolled, but..." She paused. "She's missed 72 days this school year, Daniel. 72. And nobody followed up? They sent letters, left voicemails. But the contact number was disconnected. The address on file was wrong. Eventually, it just fell through the cracks." Daniel felt anger rising in his chest. 72 days. That's almost half the school year. "There's more. I checked medical records. Emily hasn't seen a doctor in over 2 years. No checkups, no vaccinations, nothing." "How is that possible?" Rebecca's voice dropped. "The mother doesn't have insurance. They were on state assistance, but the paperwork lapsed. She probably didn't know how to reapply or didn't have time or..." She trailed off. Daniel stood up, pacing. "So this little girl has been getting sicker and sicker, and nobody noticed. Not the school, not the clinic, not the neighbors. The system failed her, Daniel. Plain and simple." Before he could respond, Dr. Patel emerged from the examination room. His face was serious. Daniel's heart dropped. "How is she?" "Stable, but we need to run more tests. The abdominal swelling is significant. We're doing blood work, imaging, the full workup." "What do you think it is?" Dr. Patel hesitated. "I can't say for certain yet, but I need to ask you something, officer. Has this child disclosed any specific incidents? Anything that would indicate trauma?" Daniel's stomach twisted. "She mentioned a man, a neighbor who watched her, brought her food. She said he told her she was getting bigger and that something was growing inside her." The doctor's expression darkened. "We need to do a complete examination, with her permission and proper protocols. Do what you need to do. I want answers." Dr. Patel nodded and disappeared back through the doors. Rebecca touched Daniel's arm. "We'll find the mother, and we'll find Marcus Webb. What if we're already too late?" Daniel's voice cracked slightly. "What if whatever happened to her, what if it's been happening for months and nobody stopped it?" "Then we stop it now." Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from the unit at Emily's building. Neighbors say they barely knew the family. Mother worked constantly. Girl was quiet. Man in the van sometimes brought groceries. Nobody thought anything was wrong. Daniel read it aloud, his voice bitter. Nobody thought anything was wrong. A 5-year-old child disappearing from school, looking sick, and nobody thought anything was wrong. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Where's the mother, Daniel? Why hasn't she answered her phone? Why hasn't she come looking for her daughter?" That question hung in the air like a weight. And suddenly, Daniel realized something terrifying. They'd been so focused on finding Marcus Webb that they'd assumed the mother was just absent. But what if she wasn't just absent? What if something had happened to her too? Daniel couldn't sit still anymore. "I'm going back to the building," Rebecca nodded. I'll stay here in case the mother shows up or the doctor has news. 20 minutes later, Daniel pulled up to the address where they'd found Emily. The old white van was still there, now cordoned off with police tape. A forensics team was going through it carefully. Daniel approached the lead technician, a veteran named Morton. "What have you got?" Morton gestured to the open back doors. "It's strange. Harris, really strange." Daniel peered inside. The van was cluttered but not dirty. There were cardboard boxes stacked neatly, filled with canned goods, most of them past their expiration dates. Donated food, maybe, or collected from dumpsters behind grocery stores. There was a worn blanket, child-sized, a small stuffed bear with one eye missing, and a notebook. "We found this," Morton said, handing Daniel the notebook in a plastic evidence bag. Daniel opened it carefully. The handwriting was shaky, uncertain, lists of addresses, times, notes like bread donation Tuesday and church, food pantry Thursday 3 p.m., and then scattered throughout. "Check on the girl. Brought soup. She looks worse." Daniel's blood ran cold. He was watching her. "There's more." Morton pulled out another bag. Inside was a cell phone, old cheap cracked screen. "Found this wedged under the seat. It's not locked." Daniel took it, scrolled through. The call history showed mostly outgoing calls to the same number. He recognized it immediately. It was the disconnected number listed as Emily's mother's contact. "He was trying to reach her," Daniel said quietly. "Yeah, last attempt was yesterday. 15 calls in 2 days, none of them answered." Daniel checked the messages. There was only one draft, never sent. "Your daughter needs help. Please come home, she's getting sicker. I don't know what to do." Daniel stared at the words. This didn't fit. This wasn't the message of someone hurting a child. "Run the plates again. I want to know everything about Marcus Webb. Where he worked, where he gets his money, everything. Already on it. Preliminary shows he's on disability, lives alone, neighbors describe him as odd but harmless, collects cans for recycling, volunteers at the community, kitchen sometimes." Daniel looked at the building. "Which apartment is his?" 2B, ground floor. Officers already checked it. Door was unlocked. Nobody inside. "I want to see it." Morton led him to the entrance. The building was old, falling apart. Broken mailboxes, graffiti on the walls, the smell of mildew and neglect. Apartment 2B's door hung slightly open. Daniel pushed it wider. The apartment was tiny. One room, barely furnished. A cot in the corner, a small table, no TV. But the walls were covered with newspaper clippings, missing children, Amber Alerts, articles about child welfare reform. Daniel's chest tightened. On the table was a stack of pamphlets. Know the signs of child neglect. How to report concerns about a child. Community resources for struggling families. And underneath them, a letter, handwritten, addressed to Child Protective Services. Daniel read, it his hands trembling. "I am writing to report concerns about a child in my building. Apartment 2D. The mother works constantly, and the child is left alone often. I have tried to help by bringing food, but the child appears unwell. I do not know what to do. Please send someone to check. The child needs help." It was dated 3 months ago. Daniel looked at Morton. "Did this ever get sent?" "There's no stamp, no envelope. I don't think he knew how to mail it properly." Daniel felt something break inside him. He was trying to help. "Looks that way. Then where is he? Why did he run?" Morton pulled out one more item. A crumpled piece of paper found in the trash. It was a notice. A criminal background check rejection letter. Marcus Webb had applied to be a volunteer mentor for at-risk youth. He'd been denied because of his old petty theft convictions. At the bottom, someone had scribbled in pen, "People like you shouldn't be around children." Daniel understood now. Marcus Webb wasn't a predator. He was a lonely, struggling man who'd tried to help a child and feared that no one would believe him. Daniel's phone rang. Rebecca's voice was tight. "We found her. The mother. She's here. At the hospital? Yeah, she just walked in asking for Emily, Daniel. She had no idea her daughter was even missing. 20 minutes later, Daniel walked into the hospital waiting room and saw her. She was young, maybe 30. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her uniform wrinkled and stained. Dark circles under her eyes made her look 10 years older. She was sitting in a plastic chair, hands trembling, staring at nothing. When she saw Daniel approach, she stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Where is she? Where's my baby? They won't let me see her until—" Her voice cracked. "Mrs. Winters? Miss, just call me Diane." She grabbed his arm. "Please, I need to see Emily. They said she's sick. They said—" She couldn't finish. Daniel guided her gently back to the chair. "She's with the doctors right now. They're running tests. She's stable." "Stable? What does that mean? What happened?" Daniel sat across from her. "Emily called 911 this afternoon. She said she was hurting and scared. When we found her, she was alone outside your building." Diane's face went white. "Alone? No. No, she was with Marcus. I asked him to watch her. I had a double shift and—" She stopped, realization flooding her face. Oh God, what time is it?" "It's almost 7. I was supposed to be home at 4. My phone died and I couldn't charge it and the bus was late and—" She covered her face with her hands. She was alone. My baby was alone. "Miss Winters, how long has Emily been sick?" Diane looked up, confused. "Sick? She's not sick. She's always been a quiet kid. A little thin, but I feed her. I do. Her stomach is severely swollen. She's underweight, weak. The doctors are very concerned." Diane stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Swollen? No, these kids get pudgy sometimes. I thought she was just growing." "When was the last time you took her to a doctor?" The question seemed to physically hurt her. I don't remember. We lost our insurance when I switched jobs. I kept meaning to reapply, but the paperwork was so confusing and I was working so much and she seemed fine. She never complained. She's been missing school, Diane. 72 days this year. What? No. I drop her off every morning before my shift, right at the corner by the school. You watch her go inside? Diane's face crumbled. I have to catch the bus. I can't be late or I lose the job. I assumed. Daniel's voice softened despite himself. Emily hasn't been going to school. She's been going back to the apartment. No, she wouldn't. She's a good girl. Diane stopped, something breaking in her eyes. She's been alone all day, every day? It appears so. Diane stood up, pacing, her breathing quick and shallow. I work 16-hour days, sometimes 18. I leave at 5 in the morning. I don't get home until midnight, sometimes later. I thought, Marcus said, he'd keep an eye on her. He seemed nice. He brought her food. He said he was helping. Did you pay him? Pay him? No. I couldn't afford. He just offered. He said he understood what it was like to struggle. Her voice broke. I trusted him. I had to trust someone. I couldn't do it alone. Daniel watched her, and despite everything, he saw the truth written all over her face. This wasn't a monster. This was an exhausted woman who'd made desperate choices because she had no other options. Miss Winters, I need you to tell me everything you know about Marcus Webb. She wiped her eyes. Not much. He lives downstairs, keeps to himself. He started talking to me a few months ago, said he noticed Emily alone sometimes. Asked if I needed help. I said no at first, but then... She swallowed hard. Then I missed rent, and I was about to lose my second job, and I couldn't afford daycare. I couldn't afford anything. Did he ever act inappropriate toward Emily? What? No, never. He brought her food, checked in, that's all. Daniel leaned forward. Diane, Emily said something to the 911 operator. She said, he put something big inside me. Diane's knees gave out. She collapsed back into the chair, shaking her head violently. No, Marcus wouldn't. He couldn't. Oh God, what have I done? Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway. "Miss Winters, you can see your daughter now." Diane shot up like she'd been electrocuted. "Is she okay? Please tell me she's okay. She's awake and asking for you. But I need to prepare you, she's very weak, and we still don't have all the answers." Diane followed the doctor, and Daniel went with them. They entered a small examination room where Emily lay in a hospital bed, looking impossibly tiny against the white sheets. "Mommy?" Her voice was barely a whisper. Diane rushed to her side, tears streaming down her face. "Baby, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Emily's small hand reached up to touch her mother's face. "You came." "Of course I came. I'll always come." Diane kissed her forehead, her hands shaking. As she smoothed Emily's hair, Daniel stood back, giving them space, but Dr. Patel gestured for him to stay. "Emily," the doctor said gently, "we need to ask you some questions, okay? To help us understand what's hurting you." Emily nodded, her eyes still on her mother. "Can you tell us when your tummy started hurting?" Emily thought hard. "After my birthday, I think. It was just a little hurt at first, like when you eat too much, but then it got bigger." "And you told your mommy?" "I told her it hurts sometimes. She said growing up makes your tummy feel funny." Diane closed her eyes, fresh, tears falling. "Oh, baby. It's okay, Mommy. You were tired. You're always so tired." Those words hit harder than any accusation could have. Daniel stepped closer. "Emily, sweetheart, do you remember what you told me on the phone? About someone putting something inside you?" Emily's face scrunched up, trying to remember. "I said that?" "Yes, can you tell us what you meant?" It feels like something big is in there, pushing, making my tummy stick out." She touched her swollen abdomen carefully. The helper man noticed it too. "Marcus, the neighbor?" Emily nodded. "He said I was getting bigger. He looked worried. He kept asking if Mommy knew. He said I needed to see a doctor." Diane's breath caught. "He said that?" "Yeah. He said it lots of times, but I told him you were working. That we'd go when you had time." Dr. Patel made notes. "Emily, did Marcus ever touch you? Besides looking at your stomach?" Emily looked confused. "Touch me? Like how? Did he ever make you uncomfortable, do things that felt wrong?" "No, he was nice. He brought me soup when I felt bad. He taught me how to call 911. He said if I ever felt really, really sick and Mommy wasn't home, I should call that number." Daniel felt something shift in his chest. "He taught you to call 911? "Uh-huh. He wrote the numbers down for me, put them by the phone. He said, if you ever need help and no grown-up is there, you call this number and tell them the truth." Diane covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. "Emily," Daniel said softly, "why did you fall today when you hurt your leg?" "My legs just stopped working right. They do that now. They get all wobbly and I fall down. I was trying to get to the phone because the hurting got really, really bad. Worse than before, and I remembered, what Marcus said, to call if I needed help." "Where was Marcus when you called?" "I don't know. He wasn't there today. He usually comes in the morning, but he didn't come. I waited and waited, but nobody came. And then the hurting got so bad I got scared." Dr. Patel looked at Daniel. There was something in his expression, relief mixed with deep concern. "Emily, you're very brave," the doctor said. "We're going to do some special pictures of your tummy now, okay? To see what's making it hurt." "Will it hurt more?" "No, sweetheart. You won't feel a thing." As the nurses prepared to take Emily for imaging, she looked at her mother. "Mommy, am I in trouble for calling the police?" Diane broke completely. "No, baby, no. You did exactly the right thing. You're the bravest girl in the world." Emily smiled weakly. "Marcus said I was brave too." As they wheeled her out, Daniel and Diane stood in the hallway. "He wasn't hurting her," Diane whispered. "He was trying to save her." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think he was." "Then where is he?" That was the question that terrified Daniel most. Because if Marcus Webb was innocent, why did he run? Diane sat in the waiting room, staring at her hands. They were rough, calloused from years of cleaning offices, scrubbing floors, doing whatever work she could find. Daniel sat across from her, watching her unravel. "I should have seen it," she whispered. "I'm her mother. I should have known. You were working to keep a roof over her head." "I was working so much I didn't even see my own daughter." Her voice cracked. "Do you know what time I left this morning? 4:30. She was still asleep. Do you know what time I got home last night? 1 a.m. She was already asleep. I haven't had a real conversation with her I don't even know how long." Daniel said nothing. Sometimes silence was the only honest response. "I grew up poor," Diane continued, her eyes distant. "My mom worked 3 jobs too. I swore I'd never do that to my own kid. I swore I'd be there, be present." She laughed bitterly. "But here I am, doing exactly what I said I'd never do. You were surviving. Was I, or was I just running? Running so fast I didn't have to look at what I was leaving behind." Daniel thought about his own mother. The same exhaustion. The same impossible choices. "After Emily's father left," Diane said quietly, "I had nothing. No degree, no savings, no family to help. Just a 3-year-old daughter and a stack of bills I couldn't pay. Every job I got I lost because I couldn't afford childcare. Every time I stayed home with her, we got closer to eviction." "So you worked more." "I worked everything. Day. Shifts, night shifts, weekends. I took every extra hour they offered. I thought if I could just get us stable, just get ahead a little bit, then I could slow down, be the mom she deserved." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But that day never came. There was always another bill, another crisis, another reason I couldn't stop." "And Marcus?" Diane's face twisted with guilt. "He seemed like an answer to prayer, a safe adult who could just watch her, make sure she wasn't alone. I didn't ask questions because I was terrified of the answers. What if he said no? What if he wanted money I didn't have? So I just let it happen." "Did you ever suspect something was wrong? With Marcus?" "No. With Emily?" She paused. Sometimes she seemed quiet, more than usual. She stopped talking about school, stopped asking me to play, but I told myself she was just growing up, getting independent. I didn't want to see the truth. "What truth?" "That I was losing her, that she was fading away right in front of me and I was too busy to notice." Rebecca appeared in the doorway. "Daniel, can I talk to you?" He stepped into the hall. "We found Marcus Webb," Rebecca said quietly. Daniel's heart jumped. "Where?" "St. Catherine's Church. The priest called it in. Marcus has been hiding in the basement since this afternoon." "Is he in custody?" "Not yet. He won't come out. Says he'll only talk to you." Daniel glanced back at Diane, then nodded. "I'm on my way." 20 minutes. Later, Daniel descended the narrow stairs into the church basement. Father Miguel, an elderly priest, waited at the bottom. "He's been down here for hours," the priest said softly. "He's terrified. Keeps saying they'll think he hurt that little girl." "Did he tell you what happened?" "Only that he tried to help her, that he didn't know what else to do." Daniel moved deeper into the basement. In the corner, sitting on an old cot, was Marcus Webb. He was smaller than Daniel expected. Thin graying hair, weathered face. He looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "I didn't hurt her," Marcus said. "Immediately. I swear on my life I didn't hurt that child." Daniel pulled up a chair. "Then tell me what happened, Marcus. Tell me everything." Marcus's hand shook. "I just wanted to help. That's all I've ever wanted." Marcus Webb's voice trembled as he spoke. "I noticed her months ago, sitting on the steps alone after school hours. At first I thought maybe she was just waiting for her mom, but then I saw her there at night, in the cold. A little girl, all by herself." Daniel listened, his notepad out but untouched. "I wanted to call someone. The police, child services, somebody. But who would believe me?" Marcus gestured to himself. I'm a guy with a record, living on disability, no family, the kind of person people cross the street to avoid. So what did you do? I talked to her mother, told her I'd noticed Emily alone sometimes. She was so tired, officer. So tired she could barely stand. She admitted she was struggling. I offered to keep an eye on the girl, just to make sure she wasn't alone. And she agreed? Not at first, but eventually, yes. I could see she was desperate. Marcus wiped his eyes. I brought Emily food, made sure she got inside safe. That's all. I swear that's all. When did you notice she was sick? About 2 months ago. Her stomach started getting bigger. She moved slower, fell down a lot. I asked her if it hurt, and she said yes. I told her she needed to see a doctor. Did you tell her mother? I tried. I called that number she gave me, over and over. It never worked. I didn't know where she worked. I didn't know what to do. His voice broke. So I tried to write a letter to Child Services, but I didn't know how to send it properly. I'm not good with those things. Daniel thought of the letter he'd found. Why did you run today, Marcus? Because I knew how it would look. A man like me, alone with a sick little girl. I've seen the news. I know what people think. I was terrified they'd arrest me before anyone listened. Daniel closed his notepad. You taught her to call 911. Marcus nodded. I figured if something happened, and I wasn't there, she needed to know how to get help. I never thought... He covered his face. I never thought she'd actually have to use it. Back at the hospital, Daniel met with Rebecca and reviewed what they'd found. I talked to the school, Rebecca said. They sent automated absence notices to the disconnected number. Never followed up beyond that. Said they were understaffed. What about Child Services? No open cases. No reports filed. Nothing. Medical records? The county clinic has her on file, but the last visit was 2 years ago. They sent reminder notices to the old address. When they didn't hear back, they just closed the file. Daniel felt anger rising. So everyone did the minimum, just enough to check a box. Exactly. The school sent notices. The clinic sent reminders. Social services had no reports to investigate. Legally, everyone did their job. But, nobody actually helped her. No. Daniel thought of Marcus hiding in a church basement terrified. Of Diane working herself to death. Of Emily falling through every crack in a system designed to catch her. This isn't about one bad person, Daniel said quietly. It's about 1,000 small failures. Rebecca nodded. What do we do with Marcus? We bring him in, get his statement officially, but I don't think he's our problem. Then what is? Daniel looked toward the examination rooms where Emily was undergoing tests. The problem is that a 5-year-old girl had to save herself, because no one else was watching. Dr. Patel appeared, his expression grave. Officer Harris, we have the imaging results. Daniel's heart stopped. And? 1 year later, Diane stood in front of a community meeting, Marcus beside her, Emily in the front row. She was there to tell their story, to advocate for better systems, for earlier intervention, for communities that caught people before they fell. My daughter saved her own life, Diane said, her voice steady. Because a neighbor noticed. Because an officer listened. Because a doctor cared. She looked at Emily, who smiled back. But she shouldn't have had to save herself. No child should. We failed her, all of us. The schools, the medical system, social services, and me. Her voice cracked, but she continued. We can't change what happened, but we can change what happens next. We can choose to see, to listen, to act. The room was silent. Every child is trying to tell us something. The question is, are we ready to hear it? As the meeting ended, Daniel, who'd been sitting in the back, approached. You did good, he said. Think it'll make a difference? It already has. And he was right, because in that room were teachers, social workers, parents, neighbors, all people who would go home and look a little closer, listen a little harder, One person couldn't fix everything, but a lot of people, each doing a little, could change the world. Emily tugged on Daniel's sleeve. "Officer Daniel?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "Thank you for coming when I called." He knelt down to her level. "Thank you for being brave enough to call." She hugged him tight. And in that moment, Daniel knew. This was what it was all about. Not the badge, not the cases, not the arrests. Just this. One child alive and safe because someone answered when she called for help. "You need to see this, and we need to call the mother now." Daniel found Diane in the waiting room, her head in her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were hollow. "The doctor wants to see us," Daniel said gently. She stood immediately, her whole body rigid with fear. "Is she?" "She's stable, but they have results." They walked together to Dr. Patel's office. The doctor was standing by his desk looking at scans on his computer screen. "Please sit," he said. Diane shook her head. "I'll stand. Just tell me, please." Dr. Patel took a breath. "We've completed. The CT scan and blood work. We found the source of Emily's symptoms." Diane gripped the edge of the desk. "What is it?" The doctor pulled up an image on the screen. Daniel didn't understand medical scans, but even he could see it. A large mass in Emily's abdomen. "There's a significant growth in Emily's abdominal cavity," Dr. Patel said carefully. "It's been developing for some time, months, possibly longer. It's what's been causing the swelling, the pain, the weakness." Diane's knees buckled. Daniel caught her arm, helped her into the chair. "What kind of growth?" she whispered. "We need to run more tests to determine exactly what we're dealing with. But based on the imaging and her symptoms, we believe it's a tumor." The word hung in the air like a weight. "A tumor," Diane repeated numbly. "My baby has a tumor. We're scheduling a biopsy immediately. We'll know more within 24 hours. Is it?" Diane couldn't finish the question. "We don't know yet. But what I can tell you is that Emily is strong, and we caught this. She's getting help now." Diane covered her mouth, her whole body shaking. "All this time I thought, everyone thought." Dr. Patel's voice was gentle. "I know what the initial concerns were, but there's no evidence of trauma or harm from another person. What Emily has been experiencing is a medical condition, a serious one, but a medical condition nonetheless." Daniel felt a strange mixture of relief and horror. Relief that Emily hadn't been hurt in the way they'd feared. Horror at what she'd actually been enduring. "When Emily said someone put something inside her," the doctor continued, "she was trying to describe a sensation she didn't have words for. A child her age wouldn't know how to explain a growing tumor. She just knew something felt wrong." Diane was crying now, quiet sobs that shook her shoulders. "Can I see her?" she managed to ask. "Of course. But Miss Winters, I need you to understand. We have a difficult road ahead. Emily will need surgery, possibly treatment beyond that. It's going to be a long process. I don't care how long it takes. I'll do whatever she needs." Diane looked up, her eyes fierce despite the tears. "I'll quit every job if I have to. I'll be there. I won't leave her again." Dr. Patel nodded. "We'll connect you with social services. There are programs, resources. I don't want programs. I want my daughter to be okay." "I know, and we're going to do everything we can." After Diane left to see Emily, Daniel stayed behind. "Doctor, be straight with me. What are we looking at here?" Dr. Patel sighed. "It's large. It's been growing unchecked. If it had gone much longer." He didn't finish. "How much longer did she have?" "I can't say for certain, but if she hadn't called for help today, if Marcus hadn't taught her to dial 911, we might be having a very different conversation." Daniel felt his throat tighten. She saved her own life. She did. Daniel walked to the window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Marcus Webb was still terrified. Diane was blaming herself. And Emily was lying in a hospital bed, fighting a battle she didn't even understand. "How does a child fall through this many cracks?" he said quietly. "Because the cracks are everywhere," Dr. Patel replied, "and we only notice them when someone falls." The next morning, Daniel brought Marcus Webb to the hospital. The older man was still shaking, convinced he'd be arrested at any moment. "I just need you to tell them the truth," Daniel said. "That's all." They found Diane sitting beside Emily's bed. When she saw Marcus, she stood slowly. Marcus froze. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I should have done more, I should have." Diane crossed the room and did something that shocked everyone. She hugged him. Marcus went rigid, confused. Then slowly his arms came up and he hugged her back, both of them crying. "You saved her," Diane whispered. "You taught her to call for help. You tried to reach me. You were the only one who was actually watching. I didn't do enough. You did more than anyone else. More than the schools, the doctors, Her voice broke. "More than me." Emily's small voice came from the bed. "Marcus." He turned, wiping his eyes. "Hey there, little one. You came back." "Of course I did." He approached slowly, gently. "I'm sorry I wasn't there yesterday. I should have been." "It's okay. Officer Daniel came instead." Marcus looked at the monitors, the IV, the hospital bed, and his face crumpled. "I should have called the police sooner. I should have." "You taught me how," Emily said simply, "so I did it myself." Dr. Patel entered with a folder. His expression was serious but not grim. "We have the biopsy results." Everyone fell, silent. "The tumor is benign," Diane gasped. "Benign? That means..." "It means it's not cancerous, but it's still very serious. It's large, it's pressing on vital organs, and it needs to come out immediately." "Surgery," Diane said. "Yes, it's complex, but our surgical team is excellent. Emily will need to be strong, but I believe we can remove it successfully." Marcus spoke up quietly. What would have happened if she hadn't called 911 when she did? Dr. Patel met his eyes. The tumor was close to rupturing. If that had happened... He glanced at Emily, choosing his words carefully. "Let's just say the outcome would have been very different." The weight of that statement settled over everyone. Daniel spoke. "So when Emily said he put something big inside me, she was describing the tumor, the pressure, the growth she could feel but couldn't understand." "Exactly." And when Marcus told her she was getting bigger, he was noticing the physical changes, the distension, the swelling. He was seeing symptoms everyone else missed. Diane turned to Marcus. "You saw what I should have seen." "No," Marcus said firmly. "You were working to keep her alive. I had time to notice. That's all." Rebecca appeared in the doorway. "Daniel, there's someone from Child Protective Services here." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Now? Really?" A woman in a business suit entered, clipboard in hand. "I'm Susan Chen from CPS. We received a report about this case, and where were you 6 months ago?" Daniel cut her off. "When Marcus tried to report his concerns, when Emily was missing half the school year, where was CPS then?" Susan blinked. We have no record of any, because the letter never got sent, because a man who was trying to help didn't know how to navigate your system." "Officer, I understand you're upset, but we have protocols." "Your protocols failed this child." Susan looked at Emily, then at Diane, then at Marcus. For a moment, something shifted in her expression. Shame, maybe, or recognition. "You're right," she said quietly. "The system failed her. But I'm here now, and I'd like to help if you'll let me." Diane stood. "What I need is help paying for this surgery, help finding work with better hours, help making sure my daughter is never alone again." Susan nodded. "Then that's what we'll do." Daniel watched as the pieces finally started to come together. Not perfectly, not easily, but together. Emily looked around at all the adults in the room. "Are you all staying?" "Yes, sweetheart," Diane said. "We're all staying." The surgery was scheduled for the following morning. Emily would be the first case, 7 a.m. sharp. Diane didn't leave. Her daughter sighed all night. She held Emily's hand, sang to her softly, and made promises she swore she'd keep. "When you wake up, I'll be right there," Diane whispered. "And when you come home, things are going to be different. I'm going to be there, baby, really there. You don't have to stop working, Mommy. I'm going to find better work, the kind that lets me see you, the kind where I don't have to choose between keeping you safe and keeping you fed." Emily smiled sleepily. Marcus said things get better sometimes, when people help each other. Diane looked across the room where Marcus sat, awkward and out of place but refusing to leave. "He's right," she said. Susan from CPS had worked through the night too. By morning, she'd found emergency assistance for the medical bills, connected Diane with job training programs, and arranged for temporary housing assistance. "It's not perfect," Susan admitted. "It's not going to fix everything overnight, but it's a start." Daniel arrived at 6 a.m. with coffee for everyone. Rebecca was with him. "Thought you could use some backup," Rebecca said. "The whole department's been asking about her," Daniel added. "We took up a collection. It's not much, but..." He handed Diane an envelope. Inside were donation checks from dozens of officers. Diane's hands shook as she looked through them. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll use it," Daniel said. "Say you'll let people help." At 6:45, the surgical team arrived. Emily was prepped, groggy from the pre-surgery medication. "Mommy," her voice was small, "I'm here, baby. If I don't wake up, don't say that. Don't you dare say that. But if I don't, I want you to know I'm not mad about the working, about being alone. I know you were trying." Diane broke, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to wake up, and I'm going to be right there. I promise." They wheeled Emily toward the operating room. Diane walked alongside until they reached the double doors. "I love you," Diane said, "more than anything in this world. I love you." "Too, Mommy?" The doors closed. Diane stood there staring at them until Daniel gently guided her back to the waiting room. Hours passed. 2, 3, 4. Marcus paced. Rebecca made phone calls. Susan filled out paperwork. Daniel sat with Diane in silence. "What if she doesn't make it?" Diane whispered. "She will." "How do you know?" "Because she's already survived so much. She's the strongest person I've ever met." At 11:30, Dr. Patel emerged. His surgical cap was still on, his face tired but calm. Everyone stood. "The surgery went well," he said. Diane's legs gave out. Daniel caught her. "We removed the tumor successfully. It was larger than we anticipated and there were some complications, but Emily is stable. She's in recovery now." "Can I see her?" "Soon. She'll be groggy for a while, but yes, you can see her." Diane covered her face, sobbing with relief. Marcus sat down, heavily, his hands clasped like he was praying. Rebecca squeezed Daniel's shoulder. Dr. Patel continued. "I want to be clear. Recovery will be long. She'll need follow-up care, physical therapy, monitoring. This isn't over." "I understand," Diane said. "I'll be there for all of it." "I believe you, Will." 30 minutes later, they allowed Diane into the recovery room. Emily was pale, tubes and monitors everywhere, but she was breathing, alive. Diane took her daughter's hand and whispered, "I'm here, baby. I'm here." And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Diane meant it, completely. The hours in the recovery room blurred together. Diane sat in a chair pulled close to Emily's bed, her hand wrapped around her daughter's small fingers. Daniel had gone home to rest, but not before making Diane promise to call if anything changed. Marcus had finally been convinced to get some food. Rebecca had returned to the station to file reports, but Diane didn't move. She watched the monitors, counted each breath, memorized every detail of Emily's face. Around 2 p.m., Emily's eyes fluttered open. "Mommy?" Diane leaned forward instantly. "I'm here, baby. Right here." "Did they fix it? Did they take the bad thing out?" "Yes, sweetheart, it's gone. You're going to be okay." Emily's hand squeezed weakly. "It doesn't hurt anymore. Not like before." Diane's tears fell freely. "Good. That's so good." A nurse came in to check vitals, smiling warmly. "She's doing beautifully. Better than we expected, actually." Over the next few hours, Emily drifted in and out of sleep. Each time she woke, Diane was there, exactly where she'd promised to be. Marcus returned around evening carrying a small stuffed bear he'd bought from the hospital gift shop. "Thought she might like some company," he said shyly. When Emily saw him, she smiled. "You stayed." "Of course I stayed." "Are you still my friend?" Marcus's eyes filled. "Always. If you'll have me." "I will." Susan stopped by with papers for Diane to sign. Emergency assistance had been approved. The medical bills would be covered. And she'd found Diane a position at a community center. Better hours, better pay, daytime shifts only. "It starts in a month," Susan explained. "That should give you time to get Emily settled after she's released." Diane stared at the paperwork. "I don't understand. Why is everyone helping? Us?" Susan smiled gently. "Because that's what should have happened from the beginning. We're just catching up." As night fell, Daniel returned with Rebecca. They found Diane and Marcus sitting on either side of Emily's bed while she told them about a dream she'd had. "There were lights everywhere," Emily said softly. "And a lady told me I was brave, that I did good." "You did," Daniel said from the doorway. "You did so good, Emily." She smiled at him. "You came back too. I told you I wouldn't leave." Marcus stood, stretching. "I should probably head home. Let you all rest." "Marcus?" Emily said. "Yes." "Will you come back tomorrow?" "Every day, if they'll let me." After he left, Daniel pulled Diane aside. "I talked to the DA," he said quietly. "There won't be any charges. Marcus is clear. His statement, the evidence, everything supports what he told us. He was trying to help." Diane nodded, relief washing over her. "Thank you for believing him, for believing all of us." "I almost didn't," Daniel admitted. "I almost saw what I expected to see instead of what was really there." "But you didn't. You kept looking." Daniel glanced at Emily, who was drifting off to sleep again, the new stuffed bear tucked under her arm. "She's the one who kept fighting," he said. "She saved herself." Diane looked at her daughter. "She shouldn't have had to." "No, she shouldn't have, but she did. And now we make sure she never has to again." As Daniel and Rebecca left, Diane settled back into her chair. She thought about all the moments she'd missed, all the signs she hadn't seen, all the ways she'd failed. But she also thought about all the people in this room tonight. The doctor who'd cared, the officer who'd listened, the neighbor who'd noticed, the social worker who'd acted. One person had failed, but a community had caught Emily when she fell, and that, Diane realized, was what would carry them forward. "I love you, baby," she whispered to her sleeping daughter. And this time, she was awake to hear it. 3 weeks later, Emily came home. The apartment looked different. Marcus and some volunteers from the community center had cleaned it, painted the walls, fixed the broken window. There were groceries in the fridge, real groceries, not expired donations. And in Emily's room, a new bed with clean sheets and the stuffed bear Marcus had given her sitting on the pillow. "It's so pretty," Emily said, her voice still weak but filled with wonder. Diane helped her daughter settle onto the couch. Emily tired easily, and the doctors said it would take months before she felt like herself again. But she was alive. She was home. "Can I have some juice?" Emily asked. "Of course, baby." As Diane poured the juice, there was a knock at the door. Marcus stood there with a casserole. "Thought you might be too tired to cook," he said. "Thank you, Marcus. Come in." He'd become a regular presence in their lives. Not intrusive, just there. A safety net they hadn't known. They needed. Emily's face lit up when she saw him. "Did you bring cards? You promised we'd play." "I did, but only if your mom says it's okay." Diane smiled. 30 minutes, then you need to rest." Over the following weeks, a rhythm developed. Diane started her new job at the community center. The hours were manageable, and Emily could come with her after school once she was strong enough. Susan checked in regularly, helping navigate paperwork, connecting them with resources, making sure they didn't slip through the cracks again. Daniel stopped by every few days, just to see how they were doing. He'd become part of their small circle, but it wasn't easy. There were medical bills that still piled up despite the assistance. There were nightmares, Emily waking up crying, afraid the pain would come back. There were days Diane felt the crushing weight of guilt, wondering if she'd ever truly forgive herself. And there were hard conversations. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, Diane and Marcus sat in the small kitchen. "I keep thinking about all the time I lost," Diane said quietly. "All the moments with her I'll never get back." "You're here now," Marcus said. "That's what matters." "Is it enough?" "It has to be, because it's all any of us can do. Show up and try to do better tomorrow than we did today." Diane looked at this lonely man who'd had every reason to walk away from a struggling mother and her sick child. But he hadn't. "Why did you help us, Marcus, really?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because nobody helped me when I needed it, and I didn't want Emily to grow up feeling invisible like I did." "You're not invisible to us." He smiled, sad but genuine. "I know. That's why I'm still here." 2 months after the surgery, Emily returned to school. She was, behind, but the school had finally taken notice. They assigned her a tutor and made accommodations for her recovery. She made a friend, a quiet girl named Sophie, who sat with her at lunch. Slowly, carefully, Emily started being a kid again. One Saturday afternoon, Daniel visited and found Emily playing outside with Sophie while Diane and Marcus watched from the steps. "She looks good," Daniel said. "She's getting stronger every day," Diane replied. "And you?" Diane considered. "I'm learning to ask for help, learning to see the signs, learning that I can't do everything alone." "That's growth." She looked at him. "When do you officially retire?" "Next month, finally." "Will you still visit?" Daniel smiled. "Try to stop me." As the sun set, Emily ran over, breathless and laughing. "Mommy, can Sophie stay for dinner?" "Of course, sweetie." Emily hugged her mother tight. "I love you." "I love you too, baby. So much." And in that moment, Diane realized something. They hadn't gone back to normal. They'd built something new, something better, not perfect, not without scars, but real, and together. 6 months after that terrifying 911 call, Daniel Harris sat in his car, outside Lincoln Elementary School. He'd officially retired 3 weeks ago, but he couldn't seem to stay away from this neighborhood, from this family. The school bell rang and children poured out. Among them, he spotted Emily. She was walking slowly, carefully, but she was walking. Her backpack looked too big on her small frame, but her face was bright. Sophie walked beside her, talking animatedly. Emily laughed at something her friend said. Daniel smiled. That sound, that laugh, was worth everything. Diane was waiting at the gate. She waved when she saw Emily, and her daughter ran to her. Not fast, but steady. "How was school?" Diane asked. "Good, we learned about butterflies, and I got a gold star on my reading." "That's wonderful, baby." Marcus pulled up in his van, the same van that had once seemed so sinister. Now it was just transportation. He'd started volunteering at the community center, helping with food distribution. "Ready to go?" he called. "Can Sophie come with us?" Emily asked. "If her mom says yes." They made an unlikely family, a single mother, a lonely veteran, an officer on the verge of retirement, and a little girl who'd saved her own life. But they were family nonetheless. That evening, Daniel joined them for dinner. It had become a weekly tradition. As they ate, Emily talked about her day, about her friends, about the butterflies. She was still small for her age, still tired more easily than other children. The doctor said she'd always have to be monitored, that there could be complications. But she was here, alive, growing. After dinner, Emily asked Daniel, "Do you miss being a police officer?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I get to do something better now." "What's that?" "I get to spend time with people I care about." She smiled and went back to her coloring book. Later, as Daniel prepared to leave, Diane walked him to the door. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything. For not giving up on us. You didn't give up on yourselves. That's what mattered. I almost did. So many times. But you didn't. And Emily didn't. That's the story that counts." Diane looked back at her daughter, safe and happy. "Do you think she'll remember this when she's older?" "Some of it. Maybe not all the details. But she'll remember that people showed up, that when she called for help, someone answered." As Daniel drove home, he thought about all the cases he'd worked over 32 years. Thousands of calls, thousands of people. But this one had changed something in him. It had reminded him why he'd become a police officer in the first place. Not to chase criminals or solve mysteries. To help people who couldn't help themselves. The next morning, Daniel received a call from Rebecca. "We got another one," she said. "A teacher called about a student. Says the kid's been missing a lot of school, looks thin, seems withdrawn." Daniel's heart tightened. "What are you doing about it?" "I'm heading there now. But Daniel," I thought of Emily. "I'm not waiting for it to get worse. I'm going now." "Good, that's good, Rebecca." I learned from the best. After they hung up, Daniel sat in his quiet house. His granddaughter's toys were scattered across the floor. His wife was in the kitchen making coffee. He'd earned this peace, this rest. But he knew somewhere in the city there was another Emily, another Diane, another Marcus. People falling through cracks that shouldn't exist. And while he couldn't save them all, he could do something. He opened his laptop and started typing an email to the school board, to city council, to anyone who would listen. "We need to do better. We need systems that see children before they fall. We need adults who notice, who care, who act." It wasn't much. Maybe it wouldn't change anything, but it was something. Meanwhile, across town, Emily was getting ready for bed. Diane tucked her in, kissed her forehead. "Mommy," Emily said sleepily. "Yes, baby? I'm glad I called that number, the one Marcus taught me." "Me too, sweetheart, me too." "Do other kids know about 911, in case they need help?" Diane paused. "Some do, not all. Maybe we should tell them, so they know. Someone will come." Diane felt tears prick her eyes. Her daughter, this small, brave soul, was already thinking about helping others. "Maybe we should," she whispered. "Maybe we will." As Emily drifted to sleep, Diane sat in the quiet apartment. The road ahead was still long. There would be medical, checkups, financial struggles, hard days. But they weren't alone anymore. And that made all the difference.